Let me ask you something I used to hear all the time growing up as a Mennonite, and I still hear it sometimes from people in Protestant circles and especially fundamentalist circles today. Have you ever been told that something like contemplative prayer or the Jesus prayer, sitting in silence before God or anything like that that smells like mysticism is dangerous, or that it opens the doors to demons to assault you? So it's basically opening yourself up, making yourself vulnerable. This is Catholic or New Age or just emotionalism that the Bible warns against. Now, I was warned about these things, or I had conversations against these things. Heard people talking about how dangerous and how bad these things are over and over again. And there's a handful of people in particular that I can think of that like really kind of like crusaded against these things. If someone started talking about repeating something like "Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner," the reaction would be pretty immediate. That's vain repetition. That's forbidden by Jesus himself. Or if someone tried sitting in silence or waiting on the Lord, it's like, well, this is emptying your mind, and empty hands are a devil's playthings. So what does that say about an empty mind? That's how the devil gets in. Meditation, that's Hinduism or Buddhism or New Age mysticism, something like that. It's anything but biblical. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Sacred Life. I am once again I'm your host, David Baylor. It's good to be with you all once again. It's good to have you all here as we talk about this. This idea of meditation and contemplative prayer, and genuine spiritual prayer in Christianity. If you're just joining us for the first time, we definitely appreciate. Well, even if this is not your first time, like this video, share it with your friends. If this is your first time, or maybe if you just are a repeat viewer but haven't subscribed, please do consider subscribing. Would definitely appreciate that. Help us, continue to grow this channel. Check out the links also in the description. You see links also for our sponsor, Gregorius Iconography. Who like that happens to be me, my iconography. Gregorios, that is my patron saint, is Saint Gregory Palamas. So a couple samples of my work that I do. You can check out the link to that in the description. Please consider purchasing some hand painted icons or some icon prints, commissioning some custom icons, things like that. That really helps me out. Helps me to continue to do the work to produce this content. Helps produce things like our animation project, which you can see links for the Patreon for that in the description as well. So please consider supporting us in all those things, and also just continue to stay tuned as we put out more announcements about the animation project, and hopefully I'll have some media to put up here in the near future, as I am actually working on the animation now at this time. So anyway, let's get back into the video here, the topic. So continuing with our conversation, we see that there really is kind of like this very clear suspicion and even fear of any kind of meditative prayer or mystical experience. These things are dangerous. These things open the door to the demons and leave you vulnerable to their attacks. And the proof was always the same kind of story. Someone tries the Jesus prayer for a week, or even just for a little bit, or they try something like Lectio Divina, and suddenly they're bombarded with blasphemous thoughts or terrifying vision, oppressive darkness, even spiritual heaviness in the room. Someone experiments with something like soaking prayer and ends up with full-blown spiritual torment and confusion. So the conclusion every single time is, see, this proves that it's demonic. God is not the author of confusion, or God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of love and peace and a sound mind. So like they'll throw all these out as like supposed proofs that these things are demonic. You've opened a door that you shouldn't have, and you've let these things into your mind or into your heart, and now you're paying the price for that. So stick to things like Bible study, or preaching, singing hymns and worship songs. These things are safe. They're something that's predictable, and we know what to expect through these things. It's kind of like a formula that we can control. So for a while, this seemed like reasonable logic. But there are some things about it that I was kind of uncomfortable with. It kind of seems like, well, aren't you kind of just letting fear of the demonic really control you, and you're just kind of denying the power that God has over the demonic? Like, what you're really kind of saying here is that, well, as long as I stay within this nice little box where things are safe and protected, then I'm good. But then I started really reading the fathers and encountering of like just a very, very different way of thinking, and then the whole argument here just started to fall apart. So here's the thing nobody ever really said out loud back then, which is that spiritual warfare is very, very real. And this is something I think people in Anabaptist circles especially have started to appreciate this more and more. But I think really don't understand what they're dealing with and how these things function. And they're trying to like reinvent the wheel in a lot of ways without any connection to the ancient tradition of the church that has quite a lot of experience with these things. So the spiritual warfare, like, again, like I said, it's real, and the demons, they really fight dirty. That's what they do. So the moment you start getting serious about meeting God face to face, that's really when you start seeing them. I don't know, stop pulling their punches and start trying everything that they have, like you pulling out every weapon that they have. So they don't waste their best attacks on people who are perfectly content with like this head knowledge kind of Christianity, or this rational Christianity. So those people, yeah, those people are already neutralized. They're too busy being right or busy proving everyone else is wrong. They're too busy trying to stay in control of their own little world. And the demons, they can really leave them alone because they're not any threat, or really they can leave them alone because they're in a lot of ways already doing their work. They're already causing strife and division with their obsession with reason and with being right and with these things that they can control. So they're already setting boundaries. They're already keeping people far away from any real experience with the divine. But the second somebody starts something like the Jesus prayer, which I should insert here, I threw out a couple examples of other things like Lectio Divina and soaking prayer, and I don't want to say that those are equal to the Jesus prayer. Rather, I just included those to point out like these are other examples of things that these people will put in this same category. So the second someone starts something like the Jesus prayer in earnest, or steps into real silence, or dares to seek a genuine encounter with God, that's really when the warfare starts to explode. So instead, we settle for these cheap knockoffs, like these counterfeits that kind of scratch the itch, but it makes us feel like we have some kind of spiritual experience. But these things are safe. We don't have to engage in the real warfare. We can kind of stay in our safe little bubble. We don't ever have to actually encounter the darkness in the world, or the darkness even in our own hearts, or open our eyes to the warfare and the terror that's raging around us all the time, and even in our minds all the time. We can stay in the cages really that we've built for ourselves, or really that I would say that we've allowed the demons to build around us. We keep the fetters around our necks, and we don't dare step outside of the boundaries for fear of being punished and tormented by the demons. And it's a tragedy, really, because we're really just letting the demons control us out of fear and manipulation. We're not really standing firm on the promises of God. God does promise things like no weapon of their warfare will triumph against us. All of these kinds of things. And it just shows that we don't actually believe God. We don't believe his promise, and we don't believe that he will, I don't know, kind of guide us and protect us in this warfare. So the Desert Fathers, they say it over and over. St. Anthony gets assaulted by beasts and seductresses in like these terrifying visions and spiritual experience that he has the moment that he goes into the desert to pray. St. Isaac the Syrian says to expect temptation the instant you begin to pray with attention. The Philokalia, it's full of stories of monks being attacked by blasphemous thoughts. We see these things in the Ladder of Divine Ascent as well, and all of these spiritual writings from the ancient history of the church. These terrifying images and even physical encounters, physical blows, precisely because the prayer is working, and it's going directly against the demons and their there's kind of their spiritual kingdom, you might call it. So yes, absolutely, these kind of attacks are going to happen when you start going into like these deeper experiences of prayer, when you start seeking a real encounter with God. But interpreting this as some kind of proof that the practice is demonic is completely backwards. It's proof that you finally stepped onto the battlefield. You've finally taken up your sword and you're going into the warfare instead of sitting safely on the sidelines or even in the stands as an observer, cheering on the people who are in the warfare, but never engaging in it yourself. And it's also proof that this prayer is a real threat to the enemy and to his grip that he has over you and over the world. And this is why you also see this same kind of thing, like, for example, when people are coming into the Orthodox Church, like pretty much universally, it is accompanied with like extreme spiritual warfare, both before and after entering into the church, because the demons are not happy about these kind of things. Like they're raging against you, and you just have to realize that. So think about it. Like if cockroaches scatter when you turn the light on, do you decide light is bad, and then you go back to sitting in the dark? No, you realize darkness is their home. In the same way, darkness is the home of the demons. And when you're shining this uncreated light of God into the dark places of your heart, like, what do you expect to happen? The light's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And that's what's happening when the demons, you could say they throw a tantrum the moment you start real prayer, or real meditation, or seek a real encounter with God, or seek to enter into communion and enter into his church. They're not angry because you opened, they're not like, you're not making yourself vulnerable to them because you open the door to them and let them in. Like, I'm sorry, they're already there. They're already in your mind. It's just you're ignoring them and you're complacent. But now that you've opened the door to a higher spiritual experience, and you sought to walk through that door and enter into like a real communion with God, or a true relationship with God, they're angry. They're angry because you finally walking through the right doors. You finally open the door to your heart to God. And here's a cruel irony about all of this. When we let those attacks scare us, we allow ourselves to be manipulated, uh, and we allow these things to turn us away from contemplative prayer, any direct encounter, any mystical union with God. And then what are we left with? We're left with a Christianity that only runs in, like, it only operates at the intellectual and the rational level. All we have are doctrines and proof texts. All that we can do is try to be right in this, this very abstract, meaningless sense. And all we can do is try to have some kind of control over our thinking, over our lives, over our circumstances. And that's all that religion becomes to us. So love becomes suspect because it's messy. Beauty is suspect because you can't argue it into existence. You can't reason it into being, and you really can't pin it down and define it, and you certainly can't control it. But the actual felt presence of the Holy Spirit, this becomes suspect because it might get out of hand and it might be uncomfortable and it will burn. It won't always be pleasant. So you end up with a faith that's orthodox on paper, but it's dead. And the demons, they don't mind that at all. They don't need to possess you if they can just keep you terrified of the very thing that would set your soul on fire. So the church has 2,000 years of experience fighting exactly these kinds of attacks. And the church had, like, the answer from the church has never been avoid mystical prayer, avoid a deep mystical encounter with the divine, avoid contemplative prayer and mystical experience. It's been pray more, but pray armed. Use the Jesus prayer as a weapon, the sign of the cross as a weapon, humility as your greatest weapon in this warfare, obedience to your priest, your bishop, those in authority over you, frequent communion, frequent confession. The fathers don't say run from the warfare. They say expect it and arm yourself. Arm yourself with prayer. Arm yourself with confession and humility, and keep going. Keep persevering and pressing forward. So if the demons are screaming at you, that's actually probably a good sign. It means you're no longer playing in the shallow end, but you've gone into the deep end. You're no longer hiding out, in the safe place where the demons don't bother to show up. They don't mess with you because you're not doing what you should be doing. And they're happy to see you, staying in the camp where it's safe. If they're gonna rage against you, they're gonna fight back the moment you actually step out onto the battlefield, or the moment that you actually try to equip yourself in any real way. So don't let fear of the dark keep you from encountering the light. The real door they're guarding isn't some occult portal. It's the door of your heart that you're finally daring to open to God. So if you've ever been warned that the Jesus prayer or this contemplative practice of prayer is dangerous and opening the door to demons, then really this video is for you. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been beneficial. I hope this isn't just me saying something that's not meaningful to anybody. And if you do appreciate this video, I would appreciate it if you again like this video, subscribe if you're not. Please share it with people you think it might be helpful for. And especially, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Drop your comments. That really helps us to grow. And just thanks to everybody who's been with us so far. We're continuing to grow. We're growing at an increasingly faster rate. And hopefully that'll really take off soon. And once again, reminding everybody, I'm closing out now. This is the end of the video, but check out our sponsor. Again, that's me, Gregorius Iconography. Consider purchasing some hand-painted icons or icon prints. That helps support me, because again, this is my job. I am an iconographer. Also wanting to spend more time with things like the animation project, making good content here at The Sacred Life, and then a number of other projects as well. And so that's definitely the best way you can support me is through the purchase of icons. I do this with the blessing of my priest. The iconography is not just something I'm doing for the kicks and giggles. This is something that is a service to the church, and so it's hopefully something I can offer to you, and you'll get some benefit from as well. And that also supports the mission here. And once again, check out Patreon and the animation project that we're working on. That's Voice of the Blood, the animated lives of the saints. I'm really excited about that project. A number of other people are as well. And I am actually working on the animation now, so hopefully again I'll have some content to show you guys in the next month or so, and hope to have something kind of concrete, at least in terms of a trailer or something, by the end of the year. So that's what's in store for us here at The Sacred Life. Like I've mentioned in other videos as well, branching out into some other content like symbolic looks at things like icons and stories from church history. Maybe some symbolic looks at stories from the Bible as well. Then also symbolic looks at things like the Elder Scrolls games and the Elder Scrolls lore, and some other things from popular culture like that. So those are all things that you can look forward to. Again, please drop your comments in this video, even if it's just a shout out. Let us know that you like this video, or if you hated it, let us know that you hated it as well. That's all I have for tonight. Until next time, wish you all once again peace in Christ.